Hey, welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we're going to be introducing a new series to the channel called Versus. We're pretty much going to be taking the best games from each genre, or the most popular, whichever one, and kind of comparing them against each other to see how they stack up to each other. I thought it would be pretty cool to do, maybe if you guys were interested in some of these genres and you didn't know which game to pick up and play. So that's why I designed this series, just for that. So today we're going to be taking a look at Battle Royales and seeing how they stack up. Now, without further ado, can I please get introduction for the contestants? Introducing first, it is all the way from EA. It is a one-time Battle Royale champion of the world, Apex Legends. Introducing second, it is all the way from PubG Corporation in Crafton. It is the first ever Battle Royale champion of the world, Player Unknown's Battlegrounds, also known as PUBG. Introducing third, this badass here that you see on screen, hailing all the way from Activision, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, Warzone. And lastly, it's hailing all the way from Epic. It is the longest reigning, defending Battle Royale champion of the world, Fortnite. Alright guys, so now that we got the introductions out the way, some things that I want to talk about in this video are just going to be map comparisons, how many players drop off each drop ship. We're going to be talking about what unique features make the game its own, and then the overall gameplay. How smooth is it? Is the interaction rate, finding other players, fast or slow? So those are going to be some of the things. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and jump into the player count real quick. Now, the player count does differ slightly, so we'll go ahead and start things off with Apex. So with Apex, you're looking at 60 players max. That's by far the lowest out of all of these Battle Royales. They do offer you duos and trios. So with Apex, you don't get any solos or quad play at all. Next, we're going to talk about PUBG. PUBG sticks to the standard 100 players per match. That's going to get you solos, duos, and quads. So you get the standard 3 with that. Next, we got Call of Duty. Now, Call of Duty is going to kick things off with 150 players max. If you're doing quads, it's 152 players, just to make sure there's an even amount of teams. And that's going to get you solos, duos, trios, and quads. So Call of Duty has the most players by far. And then lastly, we got Fortnite, which is going to give you the 100 players and give you solos, duos, and quads. So I was hearing they were bringing back trios, but I'm not sure if that's true or not. So now that we went ahead and got the player count out of the way, let's go ahead and talk the maps and see how they stack up against one another. Alright, so in this section, we're going to kick things off by talking about Warzone's map, because I don't want y'all to think I'm Apex biased because I keep starting things off with Apex. So I'm trying to nip that in the bud right now. But getting to Warzone's map, it's huge. I can definitely see why they had the need for 150 people. When I was kind of measuring the map sizes between the games, I thought to myself, it's either between Warzone or PUBG, which I'm leaning more towards Warzone. The map has a ton of things to get into. There's vehicular travel, so you can get helicopters, you can get cars, you can get trucks, you can get ATVs, you can get all those things for travel because the map is so huge. Another thing that I really enjoy about the map is the verticality of it. Now, there's a lot of buildings, man, and I'm talking 15-floor buildings that you can go all 15 flights of steps and then just jump down and hit your parachute. So all of the buildings you can interact with. They got really tall buildings, short buildings, houses. So they got all different types of buildings that you can interact with around the map. Another thing is the land diversity. You'll have city areas, you got big jail areas, you got farm areas. So there's a lot of land diversity, and I think the density kind of everything of all the placements is really good. Sometimes when you have maps this big, you kind of fall into a lot of just empty spots, but I didn't feel like I did playing Warzone in such a big map. Now, one thing with having a map this big is, are you going to be able to run into other players? And I did find that running into other players didn't seem to be that much of a problem. There were dead spots at times, but for the most part, I think the 150 players is just perfect. You run into people at a good enough pace for you not to get bored playing this battle royale. So those are some of the good spots about the map in this game. Really big, a lot of interacting that you can do. You can find secret bunkers and all of those good things. So that's going to be for Warzone. Next, we're going to go ahead and talk about PUBG's map next. So getting into PUBG's map, it's huge. Like I said before, I'm not sure which one is bigger, whether it's Call of Duty or PUBG. The cool thing about PUBG is that you have four different maps that's on a random shuffle when you queue up to do a match. So there's a bit of variety. You don't always have to worry about playing the same level over and over again. Now the 100 players that goes into the maps, um, I still think the 100 players is good, but the one thing that I kind of found with PUBG is that I was running into a little bit more dead space than I was with Call of Duty. Now that's assuming that I don't land in a very popular place, which you will always get action if you go to a popular area for loot. But if you don't go to a popular area, I found that the dead space was probably the most amongst all of these battle royales. Now, the thing about that dead space leads me into kind of the density of the map. I feel that PUBG, while it has a lot on the map, the density isn't as much as it is in Call of Duty. Like, especially like on like the desert map. I can't remember the name of it, but I felt like I was doing a lot of walking and not seeing anybody. In my opinion, I think PUBG could actually add at least like 25 more players or something like that to these maps to kind of fill it in a little bit more. Now, traversing the land is it felt slower. The movement speed feels a little bit slower in PUBG versus like Call of Duty and the rest of the games. But they do have vehicular travel, so you do have cars and stuff like that that you can actually get into, and drive across the map. Now, as far as like secrets to find on the map, I'm not sure. I'm not a PUBG veteran, so I don't know. So any PUBG veterans out there, if y'all play the game actively, like are there secret bunkers or secret chests or anything like that you can find in the game. But I do enjoy the diversity of playing multiple maps. I think that's the biggest point here, is that you won't grow tired of playing the same map every single time. Um, the verticality, I don't feel that it has that much verticality. It has some verticality, but not as much as like a Call of Duty or even Apex for that matter. But that's one of the downsides to the map. But that's it right now for PUBG and the maps. Next, we're going to go ahead and jump into Fortnite's map and see how that compares to the other two that we just talked about. So let's talk about the champ real quick. I think the map in Fortnite is a really good size. It's not too big and it's not too small. I think the 100 players fits perfectly because you find other people very often and actually relatively quick, especially compared to something like PUBG. Now, getting into like the verticality of the map, it does have a little bit of mountain ranges and hills. It does have the buildings that can be interacted with. They're not nearly as tall or as big as something in like Call of Duty, but they do have them. The great part here is that you can create your own verticality in Fortnite by being able to build your own structures and basically build skyscrapers. I've seen people building skyscrapers in the middle of a fight with somebody else, which I think is a cool piece of it. The map does offer vehicles, swimming, boats, You got jump pads so you can pull out your hang glider. So it offers all of those things that the other games offer. And lastly, the map density. I felt that it was very quick to get to another landmark area from the previous one without there being a lot of dead space in between. I just believe that Fortnite's map is actually put together in a really good way of size, density, interactions with other players, and everything like that. So now that we got Fortnite out of the way, let's go ahead and get to the fourth game, and that's Apex. Let's see what their map has to offer. So at last we reach Apex. So the thing with Apex is they have small maps due to only having 60 players. The good thing about that is right now you have two maps that are in rotation, so you're not stuck playing one map over and over again. So traversing Apex is fairly easy. You can slide down hills to gain momentum. You have different things like zip lines, and you have launch points that you can fly really high up on and just start hang gliding down. So getting to the halfway point on the map, or getting across the map, I should say, is probably the easiest amongst all of these games. Now, with that, because the maps are so small, Apex doesn't give you any vehicles. So there's no traveling by water, there's no vehicles, there's no helicopters. So you're not going to get any of that with Apex. Now, another good point about Apex though is that it does have really good map density. So because the map is so small, it seems like everything is filled. It probably has the best density out of all the games, just getting from one point to another without any dead time in between. So that's a bright spot that they have. Now, the verticality of the map is, it's like 50-50. There are points in the maps where you have really high points, and then some that are kind of just, flat landed areas with not much verticality to it. You still get the buildings and stuff like that that you can get on top of and interact with, but it definitely doesn't compete with like Call of Duty as far as the verticality in that game. And then, like, lastly, one of the things I wanted to talk about is the interaction rate. I feel like the interaction rate here is probably the highest due to the smaller maps and the density of the maps, with the areas being so close to each other for people to loot. Now, that may be a good thing for some people. Some people may not like as soon as they drop down. You got to hurry up to find a gun because, you don't want to get caught unarmed. So, that's one of the spots that's really up to you that you can decide on. But now that we've went ahead and talked about Apex, we're going to go ahead and get into the last part of this video. And we're going to talk about the gameplay and the unique features that maybe each game has to offer, and what's my preference. So we'll go ahead and kick things off. We'll start with PUBG this time. So right off the bat, there are some things that I enjoy about PUBG's gameplay. The first thing, and it's a major thing to me, but maybe minor to you guys, is that it gives you the option to play in first person or third person. Now, I am traditionally a third person. I prefer third person games anytime I get the chance. So that was kind of big for me. But moving on from that, PUBG definitely takes a more realistic approach to things. I feel like the game is more tactical. There are things that you have to account for in this game that you don't have to account for in the other games, such as bullet drops. I felt like the guns and the attachments for them took a more realistic approach. Things like hiding your flash, because as you can see the environment, you can really just get shot from anywhere and not know where it's coming from. So it's more of a methodical approach, in my opinion. Now, there aren't any unique features I would say that they offer in PUBG versus the rest of these games. So I feel like it's more of a standard loot shoot type of deal and try to survive, but the gameplay is really good. I like the fact that you can't just drive a vehicle around the whole game because you have to stop and get gas for it. Those are the little things that I like with this type of gameplay. So if you're into the more methodical, I'm not going to hold your hand type of game, this may be for you. Now, I don't have many bad things to say about the gameplay. I maybe have like one or two petty gripes. First being the controls. I am playing on console. I felt like the controls aren't as intuitive as I would have liked them to be, but you know, that's whatever. I'm sure if I played more, then it would become second nature. And two, for me, the pace is a little bit slower. I am somebody who likes a faster paced game. I like to get to the action immediately. So this sometimes can just kind of bore me a little bit, but that's not to take away from the game whatsoever. So next, we got Fortnite. Now, guys, before I get into Fortnite, please don't kill me, because I am a noob. I am trash at Fortnite, okay? Like, I think they had me in a beginner's bracket because nobody was building, everybody was just shooting, all right? But the gameplay with Fortnite, man, is great. Honestly, I didn't think it was that good just playing it. I always kind of avoided Fortnite because of the popularity, the mainstream popularity. But the game is actually good. I can actually see how there's some skill tied into building those platforms super fast and, you know, just kind of outmaneuvering your opponent. So there's a lot of things that you can work in there with building that makes the gameplay dynamic. I feel like this game requires a lot of quick thinking and improvising when you're playing, because not only do you have to be skilled at, you know, shooting and aiming, but you have to be able to rapidly think and start building and what you're building next and, you know, what you're trying to construct during that chaos. I feel like when you're in a higher bracket of players playing this game, like this probably makes for some of the most intense moments in a game because it's more than just shooting and, you know, taking cover. Like, if you can't build in this game, I feel that you're not going to be successful. And in my opinion, there lays the problem, because it's not just super easy for somebody to just simply pick this up and just be successful, because you have to literally learn the game and learn the building portion, excuse me. But I don't really have any petty gripes. I thought the controls were good. I thought they made the building portion very easy and fluid, especially for controllers. So kudos to Fortnite. I can understand and see why they are at the top of the food chain when it comes to this genre. So moving on to Apex, like Fortnite, it has a unique mechanic. You know how Fortnite has its building. Apex is a little different because you pick different characters. So each character or hero has a power set or an ability that they can use to kind of help the team out. For an example, you got a character that can set out zip lines to help your team traverse the area. So that's the cool thing about Apex. That's the unique thing that kind of sets it apart. As far as the gameplay goes, it's really smooth. It's a first-person shooter, so it doesn't have any third-person options here in this game, like in Fortnite or PubG. However, I feel that the gameplay itself is really smooth. I think having heroes in this game, people can set up comps, and not that, you know, a certain set of heroes is really strong like in Overwatch or anything like that, but it adds a bit of uniqueness to the gameplay. Now, outside of the hero selection, you still follow the standard battle royale formula. You know, you go and loot, you go and you shoot, and you try to be the last one standing. So nothing about that portion has changed. One of the areas I do want to highlight about Apex, though, that I think is really standoutish, is that the ability to communicate with your teammates without having a mic. Because when I play this game and I'm running with random people, I swear not one person uses a mic. But they made it really easy to, you know, communicate just by a simple ping button. If an item has been interacted with, it'll tell your teammates that somebody's been here. So they made it very easy to interact with your teammates without having a mic. That would be the bright spot of the game. One thing also is I think this game is very easy to pick up for anybody to play who typically plays shooters. I don't think the heroes are overly complicated at all. I think the heroes are fairly simple to learn, but yet a little bit more practice to master. If I had to say one negative thing, I think some of the heroes can be balanced a little bit more to make certain heroes more playable. Right now, some heroes aren't as, what's the word, appealing as others. So that's pretty much it about the gameplay with Apex. And last but certainly not least, we got Call of Duty. Now, Call of Duty is going to be the most similar to PubG as far as the style of the game. Now, Call of Duty doesn't really offer any unique mechanics to the game that make it stand out. It's still your typical loot and shoot type of battle royale and survive. But what Call of Duty did do is they just took their very popular shooter and made it into a really good battle royale. One of the highlights of Warzone, I think, is the Gulag. I think they need to make the Gulag its standalone mode that people can play, and pretty much that's going to offer you the chance to come back to life in one-on-one combat if you die. What I'll say about the Warzone though is that this game offers you the most opportunity to be revived because you're automatically going to get a chance at the Gulag, and then after that you can be brought back to life. So not only does this game offer the ability to be brought back many times, it's easy to pick up. I mean, in today's era, or age, who hasn't played Call of Duty? So anybody who has played Call of Duty will automatically be comfortable with playing Warzone. It's just a matter of getting your mind set on surviving rather than just rushing in and knowing that you're going to respawn if you die. I don't have anything negative to say about Warzone because I think they did a great job of executing this. I do have a petty gripe, and that's sometimes when you start a match, the map, the circle that you have to stay in is halfway off of the map. So it's only like half of the circle is playable. So when you have such a large amount of players, 150 players, in half of a circle because it's chopped off, that just makes things super chaotic, honestly, with 150 players, and it's not that enjoyable to me. But that's really the only negative thing that I can say about Warzone. Other than that, I like everything about it. So now that we've covered all these games, I do kind of want to wrap this up and just give you guys my take, my opinion. I think all four of these games are great battle royales. I don't think any one is better than the other. They all have their special qualities about them. For me personally, my favorite is Apex because it suits me. It's what I'm looking for. I like the smaller map. I like being able to find my opponent a lot quicker, and the matches aren't as long as the other three games. So that's why I prefer Apex. But I hope this video kind of gave you guys an insight if you were maybe looking to get into one of these four games and just kind of how they all play. So I hope this video helps. I want you guys to let me know in the comments below if you're playing one of these four games, which one is it? Or if you're thinking about getting into one of these four games, which one are you thinking about? I had a ton of fun making this video. This was probably my biggest project yet. I plan on making more videos like this on the channel. So if you did like this video, show some support by hitting that thumbs up and subscribing. I appreciate your time. Y'all take care, and I'll catch you next time.